The author is recognized for her 4-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chandler Pruitt, the Republic of Texas. Private Express statutes, PES, are a group of federal, civil, and criminal laws that make it unlawful for any entity other than the U.S. Postal Service to send or carry letters over post routes for compensation, meaning simply that only your USPS mailman has access to your personal mailbox to deliver letters. Companies such as UPS or FedEx can only deliver packages or parcels and can only deliver them to the front of your home and not into your mailbox. From 2007 to 2011, the United States Postal Service has lost $25.4 billion and is presently $15 billion in debt. In the past 5 years, mail volume has decreased 28%. A massive government-run monopoly, such as the USPS, is far more handicapped when it comes to adjusting to market changes such as this than a privately owned company would be. Currently, the USPS is hemorrhaging money and has lost $2.2 billion already in the first quarter of 2012. Patrick Donahoe, the Postmaster General himself, agrees that they need significant changes to the laws that limit flexibility and impose undue financial burdens. As of right now, the USPS wants congressional approval to eliminate Saturday mail delivery completely, and has also come up with a new plan to completely eliminate benefits for 9,000 full-time employees and to open certain postal offices only 2 to 4 hours a day. Clearly, the amount of money being poured into the United States Postal Service is unneeded and wasteful, to say the least. We need to allow private services to compete with the USPS, with the end goal of gradually downsizing it. Repealing the private express statutes would open the floor for private delivery services such as UPS, FedEx, and other private delivery services. This would alleviate a portion of those losses experienced by the United States Postal Service, as well as decrease the size of the USPS to that which is more appropriate for the needs of us, the American public. And with that, I yield the remainder of my time to my closing summation.
The author yields 2 minutes and 55 seconds to her closing summation. The floor is now open for 4 minutes of non-debatable technical questions. The chair recognizes Burbach, Polk, Myers, Ferries, Zeller, Rivera, Rex, Chow, Cobb, Rosenthal, Pugliese. Excuse me, delegate. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Sir Chair. Author, are you currently aware that the United States Postal Service has billions of dollars to Congress with no federal agency done?
I'm aware that Congress gives
Thank you. Next question, please.
Brian Pugliese, Model United Nations. Thank you, Sir Chair. To clarify, did you say it was losing on average 25.4 million or billion?
Billion.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Laura Margaret Burbach, Georgia Delegation. Thank you, Sir Chair. Is there anything provided where citizens would be able to give consent for which companies would be able to place mail in their private mailboxes?
Companies will be able, people will be able to send mail with whomever they choose, and these private delivery services will need licenses to be able to.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Brittany Miller from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you, Sir Chair. Exactly how many letters are lost in the Postal Service each year?
I actually don't have that statistic.
Thank you.
Do you have any statistics on how many Americans use the USPS?
Currently, everyone, but the amount of mail has decreased.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Camilo Rivera, District of Columbia Delegation. Is it true that USPS is the only government agency that is self-funded and does not get any kind of funding from the federal government?
It gets $3.3 billion as a cap from the federal government.
Thank you.
Rex, Oklahoma. As with the status quo, can private companies such as FedEx deliver paper products, and if so, by what means?
That would be up to them.
Rosenthal, Wisconsin. Would the recipients of the pieces of mail that people are sending them privately be able to choose which private companies have access to their mailbox?
Absolutely.
Next question, please.
Slowly,
That's
but over
debatable.
time.
Next question, please.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Further non-debatable technical questions at this time. Mr. Vollmer, Ms. Hallman, Whitaker, Hall, Missouri, Gillette, Thariil, Jordan, Coletti, What you?
What would happen in a case along the lines of somebody sending via USPS but the recipients will be signed as a private corporation?
You don't have to be signed, they can all deliver to your house.
Thank you. Next question.
Thanks, Sir Chair. My name is Jason Mulvern. I am from Florida. Author, is it not true that although highly subsidized by the U.S. government, USPS is a private corporation?
Repeat that, please.
Is it not true that although highly subsidized by the U.S. government, the United States Postal Service is not a private corporation? It's a private corporation, excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Will a person still be able to send their mail with the United States Postal Service if that?
They will have complete freedom.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Delegate Holman, North Carolina, would you have to call private companies to come pick up your mail?
That would be up to them. That'll work itself out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Next question, please.
Taylor, Weatherford, Connecticut. Can you tell me how many people the U.S. Postal Service currently employs?
600,000.
Next, please.
There definitely has, especially in other
Thank you.
countries.
Next question, please.
Ben Missouri representing Delaware delegation. Just to clarify, people would be able to still choose the U.S. Postal Service over companies, correct?
Yes, sir.
Total time for non-debatable technical questions has now elapsed. We now proceed to the con-intent speaker. Will the recognized con-intent speaker please approach the podium? Thank you. Delegate, you have 3 minutes for your con-intent speech.
Thank you, Sir Chair. Would author please go to the subject of the question?
I'm sorry, Delegate, that is not in order in a con-intent speech.
I'm against this proposal for the main reason that this proposal will destroy the U.S. Postal Service. This government-funded program delivers from the West Keys, can deliver from West Keys, Florida to Seattle, Washington. West Keys, Florida to Seattle, Washington for a flat charge of 45 cents. The U.S. Postal Program has served us loyally. They deliver through rain, sleet, and snow. If we kill off this U.S. Postal Service program, we will be killing all that the U.S. Postal Service program has done for us in American society. A recent survey from the Opinion Research Corporation shows that the majority of Americans prefer the U.S. Postal Service program to deliver their mail. If we do allow private mailing sectors such as FedEx and UPS, this will destroy the U.S. Postal Service program entirely. Mind you, delegates, doing away with UPS will lose thousands of jobs in the America and the international global scale. The delegate even stated that in America there are about 600,000 jobs that the U.S. Postal Service has. 600,000 jobs. That's a lot. If we allow the private mailing sector, such as FedEx and U.S. Postal Service, I agree that the U.S. Postal Service needs reform, but I and the majority of Americans do not agree with this. With a proposal that directly kills UPS, these corporations are solely profitably for profit. They will deliver to people in how will they deliver to people in extreme rural areas such as Black Mountain? It takes them 30 miles to have a detour, and it would probably cost them an arm and a leg. I agree that the Postal Service Corporation needs reform, but I do not agree with this proposal that will kill it all.
By his actions, the delegate has yielded his time to the chair. The pro-intent speaker for this proposal, Mr. Shamel, is now recognized for his 2-minute statement. Delegate, please retrieve your placard.
foundation of a capitalist system is based around competition. Competition forces companies to run more efficiently and provide services at lower rates in order to survive against competitors, an extension of social Darwinism. Competition has been increased primarily through the privatization of certain industries, such as the telecommunications business, once run by the government, but now more efficient and widespread due to competition between providers like AT&T and Verizon. It is the success of examples like this that should encourage us to privatize struggling institutions like the USPS. The USPS has become a stagnant organization, suffering from massive debt and a decrease in paper mail from artificially high prices demanded by its union. Privatization would be achieved by repealing 39 U.S. Code 601 through 606, and allowing companies like the UPS and FedEx to force the USPS to adapt to the modern world, forcing it to lower prices and run more efficiently in order to attract customers from successful private carriers. This has been shown to be successful in the UK, once faced with a failing national mail system. Privatization forced the national carrier to focus more efficiently on in-city mail delivery while cooperating with carriers like DSL for intercity delivery to local distribution centers. Through this proposal, we can expect to no longer see a union-ravaged failing institution drowning in debt, but an efficient, adapted organization capable of competing with powerhouses like UPS. Although there is a risk of needing to cut off the USPS due to unadaptability, the payoff of its success is exponentially greater. Our mail system would be faster, cheaper, cleaner, and more efficient than today. It is for this reason that I urge you to pass this proposal. I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
The delegate yields his time to the chair, and the floor is now open to normal con-pro debate. The chair seeks to recognize a con speaker. Mr. Pruitt of New Jersey. You have that right.
The U.S. Postal Service has been around since the founding of our nation. In fact, it is in the very core of our Constitution. It is in our very core founding document that the government will provide postal services to its citizens. The Postal Service is a private corporation, but it is the only private corporation that is required to deliver to every corner of this nation. It does not have the privilege of a private corporation to selectively decide where it wants to deliver mail. If a company does not want to deliver mail to Black Mountain, do you know where they'll send it? They're going to send that mail to the U.S. Postal Service. Because the U.S. Postal Service is required to serve day in and day out the people of the United States, not the for-profit interests of their shareholders. The argument that this will lower prices is a fallacy. 45 cents for one letter, and that is with a $3 billion subsidy. You think that removing this monopoly will cause prices to decrease? Prices will not decrease, as without this monopoly, the Postal Service will have to increase prices just to meet the increase in services and competition. There's no way that private corporations can compete with the services that the Postal Service provides. And the idea that it is a failure is ridiculous. The U.S. Postal Service is not a failure, considering that $3 billion is less than 1,000th of the entire federal budget. Compare that to $600 billion spent on defense every year. If you think that 45 cents for a letter is worth that, perhaps is so much more valuable that we deliver mail day in and day out, that communication remains stable, that we can keep the avenues of communication.
I'm sorry, delegate, but your time has elapsed. The chair will now recognize the first pro speaker on the floor. Mr. Bush of Louisiana.
Connor Bush, Louisiana delegation. Thank you, Sir Chair. I'd like to reserve my right to yield the remainder of my time to Pierce from North Carolina.
You have that right.
I would also like for the author to yield to a series of questions.
Does the author yield?
Yes, of course.
Could you clarify the jurisdiction of the federal government with U.S. Or with a mailbox?
They have access to it.
So it's not federal property, just to clarify.
No, it's not. It's your personal property. They just have access to it.
Thank you. Also, what other countries have done this and have they seen success?
Actually, I'm glad you asked. Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Sweden, they have all privatized their USPS. Not the USPS. They've all privatized their postal service, and it has led to very good effects.
Have there been any other government entities that have been privatized that seem to see similar success?
As in the United States.
Or any other country for that matter?
Any other countries? Well, I know Germany's also started privatizing many of their federally funded parcel services that are separate from their mail services.
Thank you. This time I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Pierce from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, previous delegate Fields Pierce, North Carolina. The United States has a long history of being against monopolies. In the 19th century, we passed the Sherman Antitrust Act. In the 20th century, Teddy Roosevelt showed us the way of trust busting. And in the 21st century, John McCain passed the McCain Antitrust Act. However, with the Postal Service, we have gone against this theme. We have allowed for us to keep monopolies if they are to keep prices down. But that is not the case. If we are to eliminate the monopoly of the U.S. Postal Service, the prices will not increase. The prices will likely decrease because of the competition. That is simple competition economics. But furthermore, a lot of delegates are worried that the rural places are not going to be represented. However, this will probably result in multiple different companies merging together into one distributed hub so that these rural areas will be represented.
Thank you, delegate. Your time has elapsed. The floor is now open to amendments. The chair will now seek to recognize the next con speaker. The chair recognizes Ms. Mayberry of Arizona.
Thank you, Sir Chair. I'm only very Arizona delegation. I reserve the right to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate George from Arizona.
You have that right.
Thank you. There are a few reasons why we need to not pass this proposal. The first is that George Will, a columnist for the ABC News, actually stated in November of 2007 and 2011 that privatized companies wouldn't want to invest in the USPS simply because it is losing too much money. In 2010 alone, it lost $5.1 billion, and it is estimated that this year in 2012, it will lose over $14 billion, which is a sum that is larger than 35 individual states' post offices. This being said, private industries will not want to invest in the USPS simply because it is losing too much money. Whatever they can hope to gain, they can't compensate for that right now, so they're not going to have an incentive, and I yield the remainder of my time to Representative Jordan.
Chair, thank you to the previous representative or previous delegate, Chris Jordan from the very grand and state of Arizona. The previous delegate just said that the USPS is going to be losing a lot of money over the next few years, especially. However, on the other side of that coin, as a Newsweek article written in November of 2011 points out, is that there may be a chance that actually all of those costs are not being taken into full account. In 2006, we passed the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act, which required that the USPS pay for not only the current medical benefits of all of their employees, but for also the employees for the next 75 years. Furthermore, all of those costs are being ponied up by 2016. But the article says that means that almost all of the costs can be accounted for, and that in fact the money being brought in by the USPS at this point not only means that it pays for itself, but possibly giving some money back to the taxpayer, meaning that at the end of the day, the USPS is perfectly fine, and there is no incentive for other companies to invest, meaning that we have to stick even with a monopoly in the USPS.
The delegate yields his time to the chair. The chair will now recognize the next pro speaker on the floor. The chair recognizes Lytton of Michigan.
Jeff Lytton, Michigan delegation. I would like to yield the remainder of my time to Delegate Sanders.
That is your right.
My main thing is, as previous delegate stated, it is the government, it's a monopoly that, the Postal Service is a monopoly. But my main problem is, why should the government invest in a thing that's going to fail in the future, because we are now going electronic. Most mail is now online. All the things that are important, bills, everything is online. So, and now we're just getting spam mail. So why should the government invest something that will fail in the future, that it's not going to go anywhere? So why should the government invest so much money in something that will be failing in the future? With that, I yield the rest of the time to Delegate University.
Cambridge, Wisconsin delegation. So
Delegate, please display your placard properly.
Sorry. So just to reiterate what Lyndon said, the Postal Service was created at a time when we needed communication. With the technology now, we're moving towards a more electronic phase. So let's pass this proposal and phase out the government running this and have businesses specialize in it. Don't make the government do it. It can help the deficits, which is huge and growing every single day. And I yield the rest of my time to the chair.
The delegate yields her time. The chair will now seek a further con speaker on the floor. The chair recognizes Mr. Jones of Georgia.
Sir Chair, Jay Jones, the Georgia delegation. I reserve my right to yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Rex of Oklahoma.
Provided you display your placard properly, that is your right.
Okay. I believe the intent of this proposal is all well and good, but I have a couple of issues with it. First of all, security. Mail is a very personal item. It's been improved since 1874 during the labor riots when they stopped the mail cars out in Colorado. And the military commander at the time said, even if we have to lose 10,000 men, we will deliver one letter home from that area. And so when you leave a security like that to a private organization, there's not the people in the sworn position, not the federal agencies in place to inspect and ensure the security of the mail is being delivered. And also, when you talk about the U.S. Postal Service, you have to talk about the U.S. Post Office. Okay, so the U.S. Postal Service works through the U.S. Postal Office, and when you take business away from the U.S. Postal Service, you're taking money away from the government. And of course, when you take money away from the government, that tends to come back to you in the form of taxes. So with that, I yield the remainder of my time to Rex of Oklahoma.
The delegate yields 50 seconds.
Thank you, Sir Chair, and thank you, previous delegate, Rex, Oklahoma. Ladies and gentlemen, by privatizing mail, we will see a dramatic rise in mailing costs, with a private company whose main priority is profits, not the citizens. This proposal leads to a rise in mailing costs, taking money away from consumers that could be better spent elsewhere. A previous delegate said this proposal will make the mailing system cheaper. I fail to see how this is true. Compare prices in the status quo. A letter from the USPS costs cents on the dollar, while same letter from FedEx costs many dollars more. While competition will drive these prices lower, they will not drive them low enough. With that, I yield my time to the chair.
The delegate yields his time to the chair. Total time for pro-con debate on this proposal is now elapsed. The author is recognized for her 3-minute and 55-second closing summation. Author, you may begin when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chandler Pruitt, the Republic of Texas.
Would you pardon me, delegate? Thank you.
Chandler Pruitt, the Republic of Texas. Thank you so much for the debate on this. I am so pleased to have the opportunity to do this. Let me just address a couple of points. USPS is not serving us appropriately by closing for Saturday mail service now, no Saturday mail service whatsoever, and by only being open 2 to 4 hours a day. This isn't creating jobs for USPS employees. They can only work 2 to 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. That's nothing. Also, jobs in the private companies, there will be jobs in the private sector if the private sector grows. Thirdly, this is the reform we need. This is progressive. Yes, there is sentimentality attached to the USPS. I understand that, and they have been around for a very long long time. But America is progressive. We don't need this anymore. We have technology, we have texting, we have email. We need to move on with what America needs, with what is best for us. Also, I could read more articles than you could possibly listen to about how much these private companies are begging USPS to privatize. They are begging for it, especially UPS. The director, the main person of UPS, just the other day I read an article, he is begging for the USPS to privatize. They want to deliver mail. They are a worldwide service. And also, I'd like to say that Dallas, Texas just recently closed USPS offices to send them to Montana because they asked to reallocate. Fourthly, this is your choice. You can send with the USPS if that is what you want. If you want to send with the USPS, you send with USPS. Or you send with FedEx, or you send with UPS. It is your choice. Let me also please bring up, we need to learn from other countries. Germany right now is almost completely privatized. Their stamp prices are lower than ours. They have more jobs, and they also are more efficient than us at this point. Let's please keep up with these other countries, like the Netherlands, like Switzerland, like Sweden. We can do this too, and we need to. Also, let me please say that this proposal is relevant to our present age. It has been solidly proven to work in these other countries, and I think it is a wise and vital step that America needs to take. And I please ask that you vote yes for this proposal. And again, I thank you so much for the opportunity to present here in GA, and thank you all so much for your arguments. With that, I yield the remainder of my time to the chair.
The delegate yields her time to the chair. The question before this General Assembly is whether proposal number 105 does pass. All those in favor, please stand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please stand and say nay. Nay. It is the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it. The division is called and recognized. All those in favor of proposal